Hey, how's everybody doing? Um, I've been going through a lot of stuff in my life and uh, recently found Jesus. Uh, I know that may turn some people off and may make people praise, hallelujah to the Lord. But either way, I just am here to share my story. Sorry, I'll be looking down. I got some notes. I just don't want to get lost. I want to make sure that I get everything out that I'm wanting to say. You know, something that's popular to say on social media right now, something that I've seen a lot is I don't know who needs to hear this, but that's exactly what this is. I just recently found or learned the power of a testimony, and just recently got baptized, and we'll be talking about that. And so when I posted the pictures of myself getting baptized, this is the whole reason for this video. When I posted the pictures of myself getting baptized, it was like the biggest post that I've ever made. And it was just a simple picture of me raising my hand in the baptism bath. So I'm going to share a few things with you just about my background and how I got where I was and the things that I was going through. So let me start up with just my childhood. When I was growing up, it was about as good as it could possibly be in my eyes. My father worked. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, but if she wanted to do a part-time job or whatever, she could go do whatever she wanted. Uh, Someone else may see it as different, but I kind of I thought of it like the Cleavers, leave it to Beaver. Um, it was really like at 5 years old, I couldn't have asked for anything more. My dad took very good care of us, as like I said, like as I remember. My parents never smoked or drank. Um, it was just a really, really good setup. So I'm not sure exactly how old I was. I think it was like a year or two um, that he was sick. But my dad was diagnosed with colon cancer at a very young age. When he died, I was almost 9 years old. He was 32 years old. Back then, they didn't know much about colon cancer, so uh, they weren't able to diagnose it soon enough and weren't able to treat it like they should. Um, as you can imagine, it caused a lot of stress on my mom. She had to stay pretty busy trying to support my sister and I. I'm pretty sure it was my sister was one. It was right after my sister's first birthday when it happened, and it took its toll on all of us, in different ways. Um, so as far as on my journey, I'm gonna fast forward till I was about 15, 16 years old. I started to run with some bad kids and started staying out all night at a pretty young age. Didn't take too long for me to start experimenting with a little bit of drugs and alcohol. And at first, I didn't really want it. I had the DARE program, and you know, people. I had people in my family that I saw and struggling with alcohol and stuff, and I didn't want to go that route. But the people that I was hanging out with peer pressured me into it. Like, oh, it's not that bad. Come on, try it. And sooner or later, I gave in. And things like weed weren't, in my eyes, as bad as what their program and other sources had told me. So when I tried it, I was like, oh, this ain't so bad. So you know I quickly slipped into trying other things and drinking quite a bit. By the time I was 22, I tried many different drugs. I couldn't even really tell you what all I tried, which is a little bit embarrassing. But I tried quite a bit of different things, and yeah. But also by the time I was 22, uh, I was so open to doing that type of stuff that I had already formed a habit of like getting off work and drinking a 6 pack of beer, taking 2 Vicodin 10s, and then rolling up and smoking a eighth of weed in a cone. And it was a daily routine. Like I would get off work and um, this is what I would do every day. And then I had a friend of mine come to me and say, look, if you follow on this path, you are going to kill yourself. You're going to die. And in a not so nice way, I told this person, mind your own business. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I had to go back just recently and apologize to this person. And, I was so bad at that time that it was a pretty normal thing for me to get blackout drunk. Like, uh, when I started turning my life around just recently and I really looked back to it, I couldn't even tell you how many times I've been blackout drunk. Uh, 20, 30, maybe more. I don't know. So, I am starting to realize by the grace of God that, He must have a bigger plan for me because I was able to build some sort of life. I was able to buy a house. I was able to maintain. People around me either partied with me or they didn't know that I partied, you know, and, I was able to move to Arkansas, get away from California, which lightened up a little bit on my addiction, but I was still, when I first got here, I was still drinking and taking pills and smoking on a regular basis. Like, got to the point where I did thankfully kick the pills. I realized that that was a pretty bad thing, and I was able to kick the pills, but still smoking pot every day and drinking quite often, and still every once in a while getting blackout drunk. My therapist made me realize that is really, really bad thing. So for people that don't know, I'm a binge drinker. A binge drinker is a form of alcoholism. A lot of people like to think that it's, because you're not drinking every day, that it isn't that big of a deal. But the problem with binge drinking is you get an amount of alcohol and you're going to drink until you either can't drink anymore or until the alcohol is gone. The problem with that is it's a very deadly form of alcoholism because your body's not used to having that. Like daily alcoholic will build a tolerance, but I would drink like an outrageous amount like of alcohol until basically I'd be alcohol poisoning every time. You know. So as you can imagine, this created some tension in my family between me and my wife and such, and I don't want to go into detail like exactly what happened between me and my wife. That's just personal. But things did get pretty bad, and at the same time, I'm smoking weed every day, multiple times a day, and as a society, we like to think that weed's not that bad. It's not as intoxicating as alcohol, so everybody thinks, oh, weed's not as harmful as alcohol. It doesn't make people violent. It doesn't, the only thing that somebody's going to put a hurting on is the refrigerator. You know what I mean? That's all the things that people would say about weed. You know, but what people don't talk about is when you use weed every day, like I did, it can make you like pull away from the rest of the world. You know, it makes you overthink things, makes you turn things in your head into something that maybe they really aren't. The problem that the big super problem for me is that it makes me really reclusive. So it pulls me away from doing the things that I could have done. And on top of that, I have a dirty drug test. So I can't get jobs that, say like the nuclear plant or factory jobs that pay good and have good benefits. I could never do anything like that, even though I'm talented and have, with my hands and have skills, mechanical skills, abilities. I couldn't go out and be up to my full potential because of my pot habit. Um, and that's the other thing too about pot is like there may be some people out there that can take a hit once a month, and be satisfied with that, but that's not me, man. Like I tell people this all the time. If I buy a bag or if I smoked a joint with somebody today, I'm gonna buy a bag tomorrow. And then in a week or two, I'm gonna be right back to smoking every day, a couple times a day. Uh, it's kind of embarrassing, but towards the end there, I was like eating 100 milligram gummies, 200 milligram gummies, smoking wax and concentrates, and 3 to 10 joints in a day. Um, so many things started to kind of fall apart, and when things started falling apart between me and my wife, I felt like I had no idea of why that was happening, and I was completely lost. Well, my wife and I split up. uh, I had to quit smoking for legal reasons, um, but I was struggling with it, and I just felt so lost. The only thing I needed to do was turn to the church. I've been in church, in and out of church my whole life. Uh, thank goodness I was there as a child and learned the stories of Jesus, and knew that that was a place that I could go for help. It's hard to get counseling right now. It's hard. Like I got into therapy, but it took months to get into therapy. It's not like you can just go get a therapist if you're struggling. So I was lost. I was hurting. So I started going to church in Russellville, Arkansas. Went to a church called New Life. The pastor there is Mark. Mark was the first person that offered me help. He didn't want anything from me. He told me, he tried to do a little bit of counseling with me and my wife. At that point, we were struggling so hard that we couldn't even really be in the same room. He did tell me, even as bad as it is, don't give up. Like never say never. God can restore all things. Like don't give up on this. And so I just started going to church every Sunday at New Life. And a few weeks in, I'm like trying to quit smoking pot, and I'm still struggling with that. Well, Caleb, Mark's son, gets up on the stage, and he's at the pulpit, he's preaching, sounds good, whatever. Then he starts talking about his struggles with weed. I'm like, okay, there's somebody preaching at a church, and he's talking about how he struggled with weed. And it just, at the time, I didn't know about testimonies and how strong they could be. And it just really touched my heart. So after the service, I hunted Caleb down, and I was just like, oh, and I got a note here that I want to point out too. He said, even though, he was preaching about it, even though it makes his parents cringe. So I was just taken aback by that he would, just talk about that openly in front of people. I was so embarrassed about, my struggles. So I went up to him and I was like, man, thank you so much for talking about that. That's what I'm going through. And it means so much to me that you would talk about that. And the advice that he gave me that day is what changed my life. Um, he said, be available. Be available for God. Make yourself available for God. You do that, and you're not going to have time for all the other stuff. So, um, at that time I was on like a week or two off pot, and I was really, really struggling. I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I had a friend of mine. I'll tag him. I'm not going to mention his name in the video, but I will tag him. I had a friend of mine that invited me to another church, Pleasant Grove Assembly of God in Dover, Arkansas. So Assembly of God is a little bit more intense than the non-denominational New Life that I was going to. And I knew that because I'd been to Assembly of God before. So I thought, well, I'm going to go one time. I'm going to go hang out with my friend and, check this place out. He's been inviting me 4, 5, 6 times now. I got to go make an appearance. Well, I went. I was like, man, this one's not so bad. Kind of like that. I really like the message. And I went back. Well, now I go there all the time. I go there 3, 4 days a week. Anytime they're open, they're going to let me in the door. I'm going to be there. This church has really spoke to me. The people that are going to this church have really, just embraced me and brought me in and made me feel like family. When they talk about church family, Assembly of God is exactly that. Anybody that's looking for a church, or Pleasant Grove, anybody that's looking for a church, come with me. Go ahead and come with me. Yeah, I quickly became part of that church. I switched from I love New Life. I still go to New Life from time to time, but I switched from New Life to Pleasant Grove. I prayed about the pot when I got there, because they are all about the prayer at Pleasant Grove, So I prayed about it at the altar. It helped me out a little bit, But at this point, uh, I didn't really understand the power of prayer, the Holy Spirit, God, Jesus. Like, even though I'd been to church a bunch of my life, I just didn't like fully understand how powerful it could be. So I still had two other things controlling my life at that point. Um, now that I was off the pot, like I was starting to crave alcohol more and more. I wasn't drinking all the time, but I wanted it. I just wanted it, and I would give in every, few weeks. I would, have a couple beers. I'd only buy enough to get a buzz because I was scared to buy any more than that. And the other thing that I was struggling with was with porn. Well, my deal with porn here, I want to talk about that for just a second. I grew up in California. It was not really looked down upon out there, like everybody knew that we were going to the strip clubs when we turned 18. I wore Hustler t-shirts, like, that was my favorite thing to wear. Nobody ever really said, hey man, you need to not do that. It's not okay. Like culturally it's kind of acceptable out there. So I didn't realize like how much of a problem it was. Well, I started reading my Bible. Oh, yeah. No, I was so okay. I do want to make a point to mention this too. I was so okay with porn that there was at one time when I actually went and talked to a guy that made movies to talk to him about getting in the industry. I'm so thankful that I didn't go down that road because, I know that that ruins a lot of people's lives. Um, so being in the church, starting to read my Bible, starting to pray, I'd be listening to the words that Jesus spoke in the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And even though he's talking about, you know, other things, it just made me start thinking, like, in my heart, I was like, man, this wanting to drink on the weekends and, get, uh, watching porn and stuff like that is not okay, man, and it's legal. Yeah, maybe it's legal, but it's just not okay. It's not good for my heart. It's not good for my relationships. It's not, it's just not good for my brain. So I went to the altar at Pleasant Grove and I prayed about it, like they talk about Jesus being able to take things out of your life. Just come up and pray about it. And I was one of those people that was very skeptical. I thought, how, how could that really happen, I went up there and did a simple prayer. Lord, please take these, two afflictions out of my life, alcohol and porn. Like, I don't need these things anymore. Please just take them away from me. That was it. In your name I pray, amen. I stood up, I started praying on other people, and just, I told them that night that I was like ready to get baptized. And, I just didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how else to stop those cravings. And I didn't think much about it for a couple of days. It was a couple of days later when I realized that the cravings were gone after that. Those things were gone out of my life. Now, that was like a month ago. And uh, I haven't had the cravings since. They have left. And praise the Lord. I mean, it's just so amazing. Um, so I was baptized the next weekend. And something I want to talk about on my baptism. So I was baptized. Brother Clint at Pleasant Grove it talked about, he'd seen people come out of the baptism tank just feeling the Lord, and I thought, man, I hope that's me, and I got baptized and I didn't come up out of that water. And, at that moment, I just didn't feel like much different or anything. I was still Aaron Reed. The next morning, I come into town and I did what I always do. I started pumping, when I go to get gas, I started pumping gas and with my debit card, and I go in and I got, don't hate on me for this, I got a soda and a donut was what I was getting for breakfast, okay? And I pull up to the counter there and I give my debit card, and I had already checked my balance. I had like $142 in my checking account. Well, I give my card, put it in there, and I've done this a million times before. Got gas first, right? Come in, give my card, and he's like, "Card's declined." I said, "Okay, what's the deal?" So I checked my balance again on my phone. It said zero. They had charged me my whole account balance to start pumping the pump at the gas pump, and I'm like, okay. The girl comes out from the back and she says, uh, that's your bank. That's not us. That's your bank. I'm like, I've done this real calmly. I was like, I've done this 1,000 times before. Every other gas station in town, I've never had this problem. She's like, I don't know what to tell you. It's your bank. And right there, the old me would have had a chance to just, get ugly and just, tell her how it was her fault or whatever. Instead, I stayed super calm and was like, told the dude, I was like, okay, well, let me try to move some money around, whatever. And he looked at me and he's like, man, just take it. Just take it. You're good. And I don't know if it's just he saw me, saw that calm in me and was like, wanted to take care of me that day or whatever. But uh, I haven't, I didn't even really think about, you know, short temper my short temper being like, something I needed to immediately work on or whatever, because I could keep it under control. But after staying calm in that moment, I realized how much of a problem I did have, with my temper from time to time. So, I was never that guy that believed that you could kneel down one time and just ask a simple prayer and things to be taken out of your life. Like I said earlier in this video, I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you're struggling and you just don't know what else to do, uh, just try it. Pray. Go to church. Come to church with me. Find a church close to you. If you can't go to church, just just pray. You know, uh, if you can't afford a Bible, everybody's got a smartphone, man. There's free apps out there. I love listening to the app read the Bible to me. It's such, it's such a blessing because I'm not that great of a reader. And, the Bible's a little bit of a difficult book to read sometimes. So just get the app, listen to it, do what you got to do. Um, if it can work for me, I'm hard headed, man. If it can work for me, it can work for anybody. Um, oh, and I will say this too: my church family that I've gained at Pleasant Grove is one of the best blessings that I've gotten. Um, you might just be struggling with not having any healthy relationships in your life. Go to church and you can gain healthy relationships. People that just want to see you. People that just want to give you a hug because you're there. They don't want nothing from you. They don't expect anything from you. They're just like happy to see that you came to church that day. Let's see. Oh, and that's the other thing too. Like there's a lot of talk about denomination and what I believe in, what church I grew up in. You know, in this day and age, just get to church. Don't worry about it. Like my preacher says, there's not going to be a Lutheran section and an Assembly of God section and a Baptist section and a non-denominational section. We're all looking to go to the same place, man. We're all trying to follow Jesus and get to heaven. So, you know, just go. I honestly think that I do want to say this too. Um, my wife and I are trying to work things out. She's been going to church. I've been going to church. We've both been praying about it. We're getting together and like talking about some of the things that we would normally just really fight bad about. And, it's helping us get our emotions under control. So I know this video is a lengthy video. If you watched it all the way to the end, I really appreciate it. Um, I hope you guys have a wonderful and blessed day. And yeah, that's my story. I love you guys. Thanks.